Donald Trump claimed credit for a historic diplomatic achievement when he secured a ceasefire between Israel and Hamas this October 11th. But is peace possible with a country that has existed since its inception in a perpetual state of war? Just over a week after the deal was signed on October 11th, Israel accused Hamas of flagrantly violating the brand new ceasefire agreement by killing several of its soldiers while operating in Rafah. Hamas has stringently denied any responsibility for the attack, which took place in a depopulated, destroyed area fully occupied by Israel, and just a day after the Trump administration weirdly warned that Hamas was planning to break the ceasefire by attacking Palestinian civilians. Israel responded to the supposed violation with a wave of airstrikes that slaughtered scores of civilians in the Gaza Strip in just one day, and by refusing to allow aid into the besieged enclave. Meanwhile, an unnamed Pentagon official revealed to media outlets that the Trump administration knew that Hamas had not attacked Israeli soldiers in Rafah, and that they had been killed when their vehicles ran over an old IED. Today, Netanyahu seems desperate for some pretext to resume the war, and he's under mounting pressure to do so from the fanatical elements holding together his narrow coalition.
אז יש לנו סבלנות, אבל יש לנו נחישות ואמונה, ואנחנו בעזרת השם נמשיך את סדרת הניצחונות ואת הניסים הגדולים.
That I also appreciate the decision of President Trump to lift all the remaining restrictions on the providing of essential munitions and weapons to the state of Israel. If we need to resume combat, we will do so in new ways, and we will do so with tremendous force.
This is a familiar story that's as old as the self-proclaimed Jewish state. Indeed, Israel has violated almost every single ceasefire since 1948, flaunting its contempt for international law and even U.S. diplomacy in order to seize territory, in order to consolidate the ethno-supremacist regime it has imposed on it. Back in 1955, 7 years after the establishment of the State of Israel through a campaign of ethnic cleansing, Israel's first Prime Minister, David Ben-Gurion, orchestrated Operation Black Arrow, attacking an Egyptian military barracks inside the Gaza Strip and killing 38 Egyptian soldiers, shattering the 1949 armistice agreement with Egypt. A year later, Israel violated the armistice again when it invaded Egypt in a failed attempt to provoke the great European powers to restore control over the Suez Canal and topple Egyptian leader Gamal Abdel Nasser. It was only thanks to the efforts of the US President, Dwight Eisenhower, that the naked, shameless imperial plot failed. Then again in 1967, Israel attacked Egypt, destroying the country's air force in a matter of hours on the bogus grounds that it was preempting an imminent Egyptian invasion. But Israel's leadership knew Nasser had no intention of attacking. As Menachem Begin later admitted, we must be honest with ourselves. We decided to attack him. During that same period of time, Israel staged an elaborate provocation to justify its assault on Syria and its taking of the Syrian Golan Heights through an illegal occupation. As Moshe Dayan, the defense minister, during the Six-Day War revealed years later, we would send a tractor to plow some area where it wasn't possible to do anything in the demilitarized area, and knew in advance that the Syrians would start to shoot. If they didn't shoot, we would tell the tractor to advance further, until in the end, the Syrians would get annoyed and shoot. And then we would use artillery, and later the Air Force also, and that's how it was. The Syrians, on the fourth day of the war, were not a threat to us. In 1973, after Israel suffered a bloody nose at the hands of the Egyptian military, it attempted to destroy the post-war armistice by launching a surprise attack which surrounded the Egyptian Third Army. This cavalier move placed the US and Soviet Union at nuclear loggerheads, with the Soviets threatening to intervene to defend their ally in Egypt, and the US issuing a DEFCON 3 nuclear alert. Declassified documents showed that US Secretary of State Henry Kissinger had given the Israelis a green light for the attack, secretly telling then Israeli Prime Minister Golda Meir, "You won't get violent protests from Washington if something happens during the night while I'm flying." In 1982, following the Israeli army's invasion of Lebanon, also on a phony pretext, Israel violated a US brokered agreement which saw PLO fighters evacuated under multinational protection from Palestinian refugee camps in Beirut. Then Defense Minister Ariel Sharon exploited the opportunity, dispatching Israel's Phalangist proxies to invade the Sabra and Shatila refugee camp and carry out the repugnant massacre that left over 3,000 dead, mostly women and children. Following the Oslo Agreement between Israel and the Palestinian Authority in 1996, Israel assassinated a key Hamas figure, Yahya Ayash, by dispatching a local collaborator to hand him a cell phone rigged with explosives. The killing shattered a ceasefire with resistance factions in Gaza and triggered a wave of retaliatory suicide bombings inside Israel, which ultimately helped secure the election of Benjamin Netanyahu as prime minister months later. In 2002, just as a ceasefire was about to go into effect in Gaza, and months after the Arab League accepted a peace initiative with Israel, the Israeli military bombed a multi-family apartment block in Gaza City to assassinate Salah Shahada, leader of the Al-Qassam brigades of Hamas. The killing was so brazen, leaving over 15 dead, including 8 children, that President George W. Bush was reportedly left furious, and his administration joined the UK, France, and the United Nations in forcefully condemning the attack. As usual, Israel's actions escalated the violence and fueled the Second Intifada. Then in 2008, 3 years after Israel placed the Gaza Strip under siege, it shattered another ceasefire with the elected government of Hamas and set the stage for the series of wars that have led to the current and ongoing genocide.
I want to break down for the viewers. Yesterday, you and I were sitting here, and we had a conversation with Mustafa Barghouti, who's an independent legislator, Palestinian legislator. Right. And he said that most news organizations have ignored the possibility that the people who actually broke the ceasefire was not the Palestinians or not Hamas in Gaza. What he said was, in fact, I think we've got that. Dan, play this, and then we'll give you some more information on it. Let's go ahead and go to that.
The world press community or media community is overwhelmed with the Israeli narrative, which is incorrect. The Israeli spokesperson have been spreading lies all over. The reality and the truth is that the side that broke this truce and this ceasefire was Israel. 2 months before it ended, Israel started attacking Rafah, started attacking Khan Yunis, and never lifted the blockade on Gaza. Gaza remained without fuel, without electricity, without bread, without medications, without any medical equipment for people who were dying in Gaza. 262 people died, sick people, because of an access to medical care. So Israel broke the ceasefire.
Look, I'd probably need several hours and several intravenous infusions of caffeine to recapitulate the full list of Israeli ceasefire violations and diplomatic treachery leading up to the present crisis. But I think you get the point. This is not a normal country capable of acting within the bounds of treaties or international law or diplomatic agreements. Israel is a psychotic political formation with a nuclear-armed occupation army that only understands force. And in Washington, I think it's pretty obvious that there's no will to challenge it.
1 week they say that Israel controls the United States. A week later they say the United States controls Israel. This is hogwash. We have a partnership.
Which means Donald Trump's supposed peace initiative could be the next casualty of Israeli aggression.